Personal development is the most important thing you will do on this planet. We are human beings. We are not human doings. The work is not in what you accomplish or, what you leave behind. It's in who you become. It's in the relationships and how you affect people. In 2017, Harvard Business Review said that blockchain technology, it's not a disruptor. This isn't something that just offers a better solution. It is a foundational technological shift. This is completely changing our global economies, our global trade, how we represent ourselves on the internet, with these decentralized servers and hubs and communities. So a lot of people come to me and they can't get out of the corporate machine that we've been in for so long. They don't understand that there's room for everybody.
Our guest today is a Web3 consultant and educator, as well as the co-host and producer of the My Cryptocast podcast and YouTube channel. She specializes in helping people with their blockchain and token economy journeys. Welcome to the show, the founder of Whelmness Productions, my friend, and our very first return guest, Jacki Roach.
Hello, Mike. This is so exciting. It's so nice to be a guest on a podcast as opposed to leading it. So thank you for having me on.
Welcome back after 2 years, right? We'll talk a little bit about the beginning of our journey together, which is exciting, and how you kind of nudged me. Literally, we're like, go and start this thing. So welcome back. Super exciting to have you here, and how much has changed in 2 years that you can share with us with Whelmness Productions, kind of your personal journey. And holy smokes, crypto and NFTs and all this good stuff we're going to talk about. Are you ready to dive in?
I am so ready to dive in. 2 years has felt like a decade. So there's a lot of ground to cover.
Yeah, there's a lot of craziness that's happened in good ways too. Like both of our businesses have really taken off, and we've gotten through the pandemic, which is like a year and a half in. Lots of family members on my side. I know you've had a ton of stuff going on too, personally. So yeah, we're here, we're kicking butt, and we just want everybody to know, thank you for being here on this journey with us, whether you're tuning in on Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube. Thank you guys so much for being here. If you want to connect with Jacki, all of her links are clickable in the show notes. Make it super easy. Jacki, your website, where would you like to send people? To your wellness site or the mycryptocast.com?
The mycryptocast.com is the best right now.
Cool. And again, guys, that's My Cryptocast. It's her podcast with co-host. Name your co-host. Talk a little bit about him for a second.
Yeah, so Alex Enser, he runs mycryptoadvisor.com. He's the one that really got me into the crypto side of things. I had always been on the blockchain side of things. So I was always on the infrastructure of what's happening, never really cared about the finance side. So he's been my shepherd in that area. And now we've actually taken on a lot of projects together, NFTs, all sorts of stuff.
Yeah. You guys make a great team. Like you said, the backgrounds were similar but different enough where you kind of brought them together. And then I've listened and watched your show, and you guys do a nice job with having that co-host thing where you both kind of coexist in a space together that makes it better for the audience. It's not that no, it's now I'm talking. No. It's like you guys flow really well together. You can tell that you know what you're talking about as well, which is most important. And guys, here's a little backstory, and then we're going to let Jacki take it and run with it here. So the backstory is that Jacki totally explained NFTs to me recently over a cup of coffee. And it made sense from a very, very basic concept, which is a nice way for me to say she dumbed it down for me so I can understand it. And I've seen a lot of negative banter on social media. I've been paying attention to NFTs. I know Gary Vaynerchuk talks about them a lot. The Buffalo Bills, our local football team, recently was doing something for season ticket holders, and there was kind of this negative feedback and banter on social media. But I realized it was coming mostly from misinformed people on NFTs. They didn't really understand it, so they talked negatively of it, which is not a smart thing to do. So if you can give us examples of NFTs, how do you see them growing in popularity in the future?
Honestly, NFTs are going to be everything. It's like the Dallas Mavericks. Mark Cuban's a huge proponent of NFTs. And really what we're talking about is we're just going into a new internet. So we've had Web 1. What we experience right now is Web 2. What we're doing right now is Web 2. We're going into Web 3. And Web3 adds a layer to the internet that we haven't had before, which is called this execution layer. So right now, things that we have to do to buy and sell things have to go through a third party. They have to go through PayPal or Amazon or a bank or something like that. But what an NFT, this token, it's got code inside of it that has a smart contract that if I want to transact with you in a peer-to-peer economy, which is what we're going into, I can tell that token what to do when you want to buy it. I don't need a bank to do it. I don't need a lawyer to do it. I don't need an accountant to do it. So, and that's the whole thing where Mark Cuban, the whole reason he wants to get into ticketing, which all ticketing will eventually be NFTs, and they're going to stop calling them NFT tickets. They're just going to be tickets again. But what he wants to do, what Mark's doing there is, you know, think of scalping. If I buy a bunch of tickets and then I resell them, the Dallas Mavericks gets none of that. They get none of that resale.
It's kind of happening behind their backs. I mean,
Yeah.
in a parking lot somewhere that's not, employee of their company doing it. So it's like, what's that called? Secondhand market.
Secondhand
Right?
markets. That's the
Yeah.
big thing with NFTs. I
Yeah.
buy a digital asset or an asset, and when I resell it, those royalties can be pre-programmed to make sure that the Dallas Mavericks get 10% of every sale that happens after that. If I'm a creator, a graphic designer that makes a digital asset that someone's going to use, a business is going to use, every time it gets resold, I can program that I want royalties in on that.
Is it safe to say then the folks that would be upset with this are people who would make money in a parking lot, buying a ticket for $12 and selling it for $50? Or why the negative feedback, do you think?
Honestly, I think the negative feedback in mainstream media is just what's always existed. We have to transition. We have to go through things, and people are uncomfortable with that. And sometimes when they see the future like right in their face, it's just difficult to see where they fit. They don't want to change. They don't want to learn. And yeah, it's just the human condition, I think.
I definitely, I get that. Yeah, it's like, humans in general, I feel like, and I catch myself doing this. It's just change is uncomfortable. So if you don't understand it, like I said, kind of at the top of the show, it's easy to talk bad about it until you really understand it, and then you kind of make your own assessment. But I feel like the mature approach on it is like, hey, if you don't know it, fine, like learn a little bit more about it, and then kind of see where you stand on it. And I think people do that a lot in politics. I would plan on not getting into that today, but you just see a lot of people who are like, black or white, either you like something or you don't, and then everything gets thrown out. And that's not the case with stuff like blockchain or crypto. Like, you may like some of it, you may not like the other parts of it, but it doesn't mean that you discredit everything, because the truth is the change is already happening, and either you're going to adjust and get on board at some point. It's going to happen today, or it's going to happen 15 years from now. But people are going to need to either react to it or be part of the proactive change. And you were part of the proactive change from the get-go, which is exciting, which is why you're on the show. One thing I'd like to say, I know that NFTs kind of have a unique fingerprint. You spoke to it a second ago. They can be copied, recreated, or as a fake duplicate, which is great for creators and artists. The transactions happen on the blockchain, right? That's the name of kind of the marketplace. Am I getting that right?
So the blockchain is like the complete new infrastructure of the internet as we know it. So the blockchain is a way to logistically move data.
Okay, so it's more than blockchain doesn't only serve NFT land, it's doing a lot more than that, right?
Right. Like, so my whole introduction to blockchain was from the supply chain world. That's what my MBA's in. That's what I was doing. So, and I was, at the Buffalo News, I was managing paper, which is an internationally traded product. So, I mean, I can just tell you when you have to track down people's international papers they need to do trade, if if a roll of paper was gone, if it was a different manufacturer, like going into our back end systems to figure out where things happened logistically was a nightmare. And for a lot of people that work in any type of inventory management, warehousing, they know that you can spend entire days trying to figure out what happened to something. So blockchain just allows us to have this transparent, viewable, publicly viewable ledger where we can see transactions or quality control points, whatever you want to put on is there. We just have a lot more. The data can speak for itself now.
Wow. So is blockchain, you said it's public knowledge. Is it kind of like the stock market, a modern version of it, where are you seeing people buying and selling and trading in values? Or is it also like you said, supply chain, where you're seeing maybe a company warehousing products or something on like inventory lists? I'm kind of a little bit gray on
So it
understanding
can
what
be
people are seeing on there.
It can be both. I will say there are private blockchains, but that's a whole other subject. But with publicly viewable blockchains, which is 90% of them. So picture like the situation of like a food recall. Like right now, we don't know if there was a big beef recall, we wouldn't know exactly what farm that cow came from. All we'd have to know is we have to recall an entire lot between these dates to every store it went to. Like it's a ton of overhead, all of that. But if we can use like RFID chips and QR technology to actually track that cow every point it hits along the logistics journey, along the supply chain, we could say, okay, yes, we have an E. coli breakout, but it was this specific cow. So, what truck was it on? What ship was it on? What farm did it come from? What other cows was it around? So, we only have to, like, we would know, and everyone, all those other cows that it touched or interacted with or was processed with would also be logged on the blockchain. So now we only have to recall this tiny amount that was actually affected as opposed to this huge amount. And for a consumer, you can pull your steak out of the fridge, scan the QR code, and know if it's participating in a recall in real time.
That's
So that
incredible.
yeah.
It's similar to what the NFL is doing with players in the COVID protocol. Like if 3 players are in the same room, one of them tests positive for COVID, they can track exactly where that player has been in the facility all week, and then those impacted would need to be taking time off, which is, crazily impacting the game, but in a good way where they're not allowing the spread, which is why it's been way better under control. And that's great as a consumer, like you said, to track a product and know, is this part of a recall? You kind of see that happen with vehicles now, but it's usually like 2 years after you bought the car, you're finding out about it. It's not like you type your VIN. Well, this might happen. So I don't, if I'm speaking incorrectly, guys, just realize I haven't researched it. I know you could type your VIN in and like check numbers now, but that's like one product on the market. You're talking about like the QR idea and NFTs being something that's, I buy a cup of coffee or a bag of coffee beans and I can know if that was impacted in different ways. It's not only like the 1 or 2 products currently on the market that have it, right?
And not even just that, but like Starbucks is a great example. They're implementing blockchain technology, and what's so cool is even when you scan, like you buy your coffee beans, a QR code, bring it up on your phone, it's going to tell you the farm that it came from, about the farmer. You could tip them in cryptocurrency if you wanted to. So, like, you don't actually even have to go through Starbucks to support people that are doing good things all over the world.
Wow.
It's amazing.
It's taken down some barriers of consumer and manufacturer as well, or like the original source. The original
Yeah.
source is maybe going to get more love now instead of all the third hand parties that see a product before it
And a
gets to the
voice. They're going to have a
shelves.
voice now. That's the
Yeah.
part that people along supply chain, you have a lot of vendors involved in moving something from one thing to another, but all those middlemen vendors, you don't see them. You don't see them reflected when you buy a product. So to actually have them have a voice and have some power, it's a complete game changer in our world.
Yeah, that's huge. Last thing I want to, well, not the last thing about NFTs, we can talk more about it too, but something that popped in my head when we were talking about kind of that fingerprint and the fact that there's coding on it. I took a little bit of notes and see if I have it here. But I remember in researching this that there are like different product codes that have multiple layers for NFTs. So if there is a piece of digital artwork and an artist is selling it or something, and somebody does have what's a fake NFT or however they try to recreate it, it could be figured out because it doesn't match those numbers. I can understand and appreciate that. But also know we live in a world where people are digitally hacking things all the time. So do you, I don't want to put you on the spot here. I'm not saying that like you're, you know, sticking up for NFTs or whoever's like designed them, but do you really believe that there's no way that they can fault, like there's can be foul play there?
I believe humans are uh, subject to foul play no matter what technology comes out. What you're referring to is the metadata that's like inside the token, which is why Facebook went and named their company Meta, because what we're talking about is these layers of data. We have entire industries of people that are trained and skilled in understanding that data, encoding that data, and interpreting that data, metadata. So, yeah, for the common person, can you get swindled? Yeah, 100%. But that's why this is brand new, and why we say all of this is volatile right now is, we're back in the 90s when the internet was just coming out and people wanted to buy websites, and which one was going to make it, which one wasn't, who were the service providers going to be. All those questions are in our face again. So yeah, like there's predators, there's vultures at every step of the way, and that's why knowledge and education is so important. That's why I do so many webinars with professional groups. It's why I give a lot of free info. I do podcasts all the time on this stuff, because I want people to understand it from a metadata level. And you can do this. This is not just for tech nerds or people that, like, you can do this. That's a whole power of a peer-to-peer economy, is that we can peer-to-peer transact now. So, like, for example, people that right now they go through Etsy, and Etsy takes a cut of this product. When you move to the blockchain, I can sell directly to people all over the world, a global audience. We have entirely new emerging markets. We have countries that are getting out of economic poverty. Like, this is a complete and that's what's crazy when I read the negative news, is there's so much positive news happening too. But again, we're in the global transition, and people are nervous, and it's not, be critical, have a critical mind about it, but keep learning too.
Really well said and articulated again, and that's why I'm so excited to have you here. Yeah, it's just it's amazing. You and I are both in the positive news space, right? Like, the reason I'm doing my show is to get positive energy out to entrepreneurs or positive-minded people who want greatness in their life, and they're kind of trying to, if there's disconnect, get those dots connected. You're doing the same thing in different ways, both from a positive mindset standpoint, but also in a, hey, look, there's this information out there, and a lot of times there's misinformation, and we want to correct that, and also just help educate. And you've been doing a great job with that and with your webinars. And you're going to be busy for a long, long time, because there's a lot of questions,
Yes.
and there's a lot of people who want more information. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick time out. When we return, we're going to learn a little bit more about Whelmness Productions from the founder herself. We'll be right back with Jacki. Podcasting is a great way to engage with your audience and stay consistently relevant. The only problem is you don't have the time or desire to produce your own show. You simply want it done for you. And that's where Social Chameleon comes in. All you need to do is press record and upload the files. We'll handle the rest. From planning, production, post-production, distribution, and digital marketing, we have you covered. We realize that times are tough and funds are tight, and Social Chameleon believes in building supportive business relationships. By clicking on the link in this promo, we'll provide you 7 free podcasting tips to get started, as well as a free 30-minute online consultation. This is the perfect opportunity for entrepreneurs, keynote speakers, industry experts, influencers, and anybody who has a personal brand. With Social Chameleon, we help you build a brand that is out of this world. We're ready and waiting, so what are you waiting for? Click on the link to get started today. All right, we're back in action with Jacki Roach. Thank you again for being here. Guys, thank you for tuning in. I teased it right before the break. Whelmness Productions, and that's WHELMNESS. If everybody's listening, like, why does he keep mispronouncing the word wellness? I'm saying Whelmness Productions, and Jacki started that in 2018. Can you please tell us about that initial vision that you had for wellness and how it's evolved into what you're doing today?
It is amazing how life comes full circle. 2018 was really like my breaking point year. I knew I had to get out of like the corporate world. I had a really successful, great career. But I was losing passion for it. I was learning a lot of new things through my MBA, and then working in mass media production, and things weren't totally lining up. And I was just overwhelmed. I was completely overwhelmed by what I was going through. It didn't feel like other people were waking up to blockchain and all these things. And in 2018, nobody was talking about this. I just sounded absolutely nuts and crazy. And wellness
I was
was
one of the
really,
first people you were telling about it. And I remember being like, Jacki, I don't know, are we on the same planet?
I'm not, that's a whole other conversation. But
Yeah.
yeah, that was really, actually, I have a side group of wellness now. It's called Planet Wellness. So that's where I do my own personal NFTs and that. But Whelmness Productions was really just, I wanted to create a space where I could process all these things I was overwhelmed by. So it started out, I got a meditation certification, and I still lead meditations with professional groups. I do them for free. I volunteer them because I believe, we're going through this huge technological shift, but we're also going through a consciousness upgrade. Human beings, our brains have higher processing power than any computer out there right now. So, we have to like up level all of these things at once. Or just through it all. So yeah, that was wellness. It was really, I had a blog at one point, but it's really turned into helping people process this information. So I bring on clients and consult, or I work with other people. I have clients, and it just starts out, what are you trying to do? Because they don't know a lot about Web3. They don't know, they don't even have the questions to ask. They just hear about blockchain, they hear about NFTs. They come to me and they're completely overwhelmed and they're totally lost. And it's like, all right, so let's figure out what you do in your current role, in your current life. And then let's think about where Web3 is going to be taking us in 5, 10, 20 years. And what steps can we get you on in the journey to prepare you as we walk through this transition? And I've worked with so many people now that once they understand it's a journey, you can't learn blockchain in one night. You can't go to YouTube and research cryptocurrency. You could do it for 3 months straight and still not know what the hell you're doing. So, having people like me out there, and there's a ton of us consulting and working in this space now, to just get you started, like that's the best thing that you can do for yourself.
I think it's so important that what you said there, any educator can take and apply to themselves, myself included, is realize that everybody's coming from a different place. So when you're serving people, you're not always doing cookie cutter, like this is how everybody does it. And the other important thing you mentioned there that I really love is you're helping them implement it in a unique way to their situation. So it's not overwhelming. And again, not everybody's going to get into NFTs, maybe their first purchase or their first sale the same way. It's really unique. They need someone like yourself as a consultant to help them navigate through it. And the other part of it is it's like the English language. You do not learn that overnight. That happens over a long period of time. And there's really weird intricacies in our language. My sister's an elementary teacher, and it drives her crazy all the time with trying to teach a kid. It's like the word bean is BEAN, and then the word Sean is SEAN. So wouldn't a kid be like bean, seen? Nope, that's not right. What do you mean? You just told me it's right. So there's things like that with crypto, probably, right? You're shaking your head, yes, for those listening, that it's not always the same. Like two situations are unique in a lot of times. And it's usually from the client standpoint, they're not all coming from the same place. So you're serving them where you're finding them, and then you're bringing them along their journey, which is really cool.
The best thing I could have people take away from this conversation is in 2017, Harvard Business Review said that blockchain technology, it's not a disruptor. This isn't something that just offers a better solution. It is a foundational technological shift. This is completely changing our global economies, our global trade, how we represent ourselves on the internet, with these decentralized servers and hubs and communities. It's a completely, so a lot of people come to me and they can't get out of the corporate machine that we've been in for so long. They don't understand that there's room for everybody. In the NFT space, roadmaps are really big. Like, we make roadmaps for everything. This is where we're starting the project, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. But it's so different than like a business plan. Like, a business plan is like, and here's where we're going to get our ROI, and like it's very money and of course those things are like included in a roadmap, but a roadmap is really about growth. Like, how do we want to grow? And there's an expression, it's WAGMI, W-A.G.M.I, and you might see it like hashtagged in the crypto world, and it means we're all going to make it. There is room for everybody. Whatever community you want to put together, whatever solution you want to provide, whatever problem you want to tackle, welcome to planet Earth, because there's more than enough for everybody to do.
Yeah, I love that mindset. What is it? WAG, we're all going to
MI.
make it. MI.
Yep.
That I want a t-shirt with that on it.
There are t-shirts.
Yeah, I'm going to get one, because whether it's sports, business, to talk about both of those on the show, finances. We're talking about that in different ways today. We're all going to make it. There's room on this planet. There's over 7 billion people, 7.6 plus and counting, and we all can do well. There's no shortage of money. Like if Jacki makes a sale today for $5,000, it doesn't mean I'm not able to make a sale. Like whatever, I'm just using a random number, but we can both win. And I love being around people who are winning consistently. Something too that I want to make sure we hit on with Whelmness. I love your artwork. I see that now for 75 straight days, I believe it's been. You've created unique artwork, and they all are in a family of artwork, if that makes sense, because the style is similar. I love what you're doing, but they're all very unique pieces of art where you're kind of recreating photographs, right? So can you speak to that and talk about your kind of 100-day personal challenge? And are you selling these as NFTs?
Some are listed as NFTs, most are not, because the gas fees on the Ethereum network got so high to mint an NFT that I was just like, okay, I can't do all of these. I did switch over to offering them on the Solana blockchain, which doesn't have all these gas fees. And I know I'm using terms that people don't understand, but it's basically a network fee that, like I said, we're in development. So these things need money to keep running and keep processing. So when we have a lot of people using the network at once, it costs more money to try to do things on the network. So whether you're minting them, selling them, whatever.
But you've actually gone through that process yourself. And I'm also giving a little note to my editor, Randall, a little shout out. Can you put up some of Jacki's artwork here so we can see it while she's talking about it? Talk a little bit about the style of your art, and then also how somebody can, if they wanted to mint it, what are some of the steps they can follow?
Okay, so it's actually a funny story. When I was updating some of my technology, I went to the Apple store and I was like, I need a new laptop. And this young guy that was selling, he's like, you know what? I think you just need like a souped up iPad. Like, I don't even use my laptop anymore. So I was like, okay. And I got talked into it. In my head, I was like, I think I'm still going to need a laptop, but I was like, that's fine. So I get home and I discovered this app called Procreate. It was $10 at the time to buy. And I was blown away at what I could artistically do. I was never the greatest fine artist, which is probably why my undergrad degree was in graphic design. I always was amazed that computers could produce artwork. I mean, from the time I was a kid, like Microsoft Paint, all the way through the iterations of like every Photoshop, every Adobe product. I mean, I've been in step with a lot of them. And Procreate really blew me away. I was like, wow, I don't have to get my paint out. I don't have to like clean up all this. There's no charcoal and oil pastels all over me, but you have every kind of brush. You can use all these colors, there's all these effects. And over time, it was just sort of my artistic release. Like a lot of those I made a year ago or a year and a half ago, and I was just figuring out the program. And just to speak to all of this, even in my mid 30s, I always want to stay in touch with what young people are getting into and how they're using technology, so that I can always be in this conversation. And really, that was how my style developed over time. I started following a lot of other digital creators and digital artists, and in the Procreate community, I was picking up like things they were doing, but also like getting my own style. I love the Liquify tool. That's like what a lot of my stuff comes out of, is using the Liquify tool. Yeah. And if anybody wants to buy my NFTs, I am listed on Rarible, which is probably we have NFT marketplaces. So like OpenSea or Rarible. And this is where you can see all these digital assets. It's sort of like an eBay for NFTs or for digital art or for digital music and that kind of stuff.
And guys, her artwork, it's clickable in the show notes. So go to her Instagram. You have a Whelmness Instagram specifically with your artwork on it.
Yes.
Right?
And I did, like you mentioned before, like I can't consult with people or take clients on if I'm not doing the hard work and the heavy lifting. So I'm on so many different platforms just to understand, what is the application process? What is the minting process? I come from the printing world, so I know everything that goes into taking a digital file, ripping that digital file apart so that it can then be outputted on a 4-story offset press. I know, I was a pre-press tech for years, so I know that whole middle process. And when we're moving from printing to minting, there's a process. There's a whole middle process. Cool. And that's where a lot of people, this term NFT, everyone hears it. I'm going to NFT that. I'm going to make it an NFT. They log on these websites and they don't know the first thing to do. And that's when you got to reach out for help. You do not have to do this alone. And there's certainly a ton of free resources all the way out there. And I will get into like Web3 and how people can introduce themselves to this.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you sharing that. Like that's the important thing is when you take advice from someone, the first question I would always ask or recommend someone asks is, okay, like if you're going to coach me on this, like, can you just show me a little bit of what you've done? And you see a lot of people kind of getting up and coaching on something and they've been in it for like 12 minutes. And that's not a disrespectful thing. Everyone has to start somewhere. But at the same time, it's like maybe, come at it and let people know that you're learning. And with you, it's like, look, you've done it. You understand the system. You understand blockchain. You've been talking to me about blockchain for 3 years since we've become friends. So this is not like Jacki's first conversation on the topic, and she's been studying it since its inception. And now she's also an artist who's selling via NFT. So again, she's done it. She knows it. I highly recommend that you guys check out her website, her podcast, where you can get way more details. And it's funny, we've been talking about NFTs now for however long we've been chatting, about a half hour, and we didn't say what it actually is. It's a non-fungible token, right?
Yeah.
And the key difference between the exchange of currency and a non-fungible token is what? I'm not even going to try to explain it because I kind of understand it, but the word fungible is what makes it the difference maker, right?
If you said to me, Jacki, I need a dollar bill, and I said, okay, well, I have these 5 single dollar bills, you wouldn't care which one I give you. They all mean the same thing. If you later came up to me and said, Jacki, I'd like some artwork, and I said, well, I have the Mona Lisa or I have my 5-year-old niece's painting, you'd say, well, I'll take the Mona Lisa. I go, well, that one's going to cost you a little bit more. They're not equal. So that's all non-fungible means, is that this value has been determined outside of 1 equals 1.
Oh, that's cool. All right. So they're not all the same. It just means that there's different values for each token, essentially.
Yeah. And even in, like, again, the ticketing industry is like concert tickets, sports tickets. It's probably one of the most tangible ways for people to understand an NFT because, you can buy different access rights depending on which NFT you get. Are you sitting in the nosebleeds or are you at the glass? And even in the music world, they're doing a lot of novel things. You could purchase an NFT and then there's this whole world of unlockables. So, Eminem did something where you bought his album and then I can't remember exactly what it unlocked. I don't know if it was like autographed or like his handwritten
I remember seeing that. It was like
that.
the notes of the album, but it had something like, a 1-off or 2-off situation where only 2 people who bought the album got it. But I think it was random, right? You didn't know if you're going to get it, so it made it fun. It's kind of like goes back to the cereal box. You don't know what the toy you're going to get. Or there's people who are back into cards. Buying sports cards are huge now because I know NFTs play a part in that, but also just like some packs come with the special card, 1 in 10,000. And if you and your buddies have it, like everyone's going crazy and they open them in the parking lot and they're like, I got one, right? So it has that whole thing. The collector's piece in this is huge because it gets you amped up about things that are rare, right? We get excited about that.
Yeah. And this gets a little bit more brain melting, but what's really exciting to me is NFTs and what we're able to do creatively. We're opening up like truly a new medium of art. Like this is media.
So my question on NFTs real quick, relating to what you were talking about, how obviously the non-fungible token aspect is that there's different values. So you wouldn't just say, hey, here's a dollar bill or here's a token. You'd want to know, well, how much is it, right? So then you'd have to decipher. With that being said, though, are there also things that are sold, like Eminem's album that had that unique artwork? There's maybe 1 or 2 pieces of artwork that had a signature in it. So there are also intentionally duplicates sold. If maybe I'm not explaining it right, but like if a piece of art was sold, will there be like 50,000 kind of the same piece of art, but maybe with different metadata? Does that?
So think about like if you wanted to produce a book, you could say there's going to be 5,000 original copies. And then when we print the second edition, it was really popular. Now we're going to do 250,000 copies. But those people that own the original 50,000 copies, that original print, that, those are collector's editions, right? Those are special. So same thing with minting. When you go to mint an NFT, you can choose, as a creator, I can say, I want to mint one of these, one of one, or I want them at 5, or I want them at 50,000. And
Cool.
then that'll usually correspond with, well, how much am I going to price this at? If it's a one of one, that's very unique and expensive. If it's one of 50,000, then that's mass produced and it would be cheaper.
Yeah, I guess I overcomplicated the question, which I'm sometimes very good at. But that's exactly what I was questioning, is that, you can choose when you put something out to have it mass produced. And then the people who purchase it would know, okay, this is copy. This is like, does it give you a number like 57 out of 20,000? How do you know that? Is there like a website you can go to type in get the metadata?
Yes. So we have things called, they're like blockchain scanners where you can see every single thing about that specific token you own.
Goes back to that fingerprint. You get to see what it is.
Yeah.
Cool. So we're talking currency, guys. What we're going to do is take another quick timeout. And I got to give some love to one of our sponsors, Navigator Bookkeeping. It's actually my bookkeeping team that helps me out. And we'll share a little bit more about them. And we'll be right back with Jacki when we return. Hey guys, it's Mike. I'd like to give a proper shout out to Navigator Bookkeeping. Look, for a long time, I ran my business without really understanding the full financial picture. I used my gut and my bank account balance to make decisions, which led to some poor choices and constant stress over my business's finances. I knew something needed to change. At the beginning of 2021, I made a decision that helped pave a more clear path for my business. I started working with Navigator Bookkeeping. Since then, my bookkeeping has been handled for me. I now understand the full financial story of my business, making important financial decisions much easier now, and it helps me plan for where my business is going. I highly recommend giving Navigator Bookkeeping an opportunity to help your business. Check them out at navigatingyourbooks.com. Again, that's navigatingyourbooks.com. It's time to know the full financial story of your business. All right, guys, we're back with Jacki. She's been dropping so much knowledge on us, just these amazing little pieces of information we can take and run with. Like if you wanted more about NFTs, this is kind of a starting place. I recommend you go to My Cryptocast and check them out, her and Alex, to get a more detailed view. Off camera, Jacki was telling me some really cool stuff that we didn't even want to talk about on the show because it could be another 4-hour episode. So we wanted to make sure this was really clear, concise, and kind of to the point. And I want to open it up to you, Jacki, again. Is there something burning in your heart right now about NFTs, crypto, blockchain, or anything else that maybe we didn't touch on that you're like, hey, this would be really, really good if the audience got this information today?
Yes. Most people, all this information is great. How do I start? I would recommend everybody download and install the Brave browser. It is a browser that you are going to be on the blockchain-enabled internet. You will be on Web3 if you use that browser. So even if you're doing regular stuff that you do right now on Chrome or Safari or whatever you use, you can go to those same websites and you won't really notice a difference. However, you can also access blockchain Web3 websites. The next thing I would do, Brave browser allows you to use, it has a digital wallet built in that you could use to hold cryptos and stuff like that. I personally like the MetaMask wallet. So I would tell people download and install the Brave browser and then download the MetaMask wallet. That's going to be a digital wallet. There's a little bit more to it. So look up before you do that or do some research on that. But that's your ticket to the whole metaverse. If you go to something like Decentraland, which a lot of people have heard about, this is a metaverse project. The really cool thing about Web3, right now when on Web2, if I want to buy something from Target and then something from Walmart and then something from Amazon, I have a username and password for every one of those websites. I don't know about you, but I have about 200 usernames and passwords for everything that I'm just throwing my data around on Web2. On Web3, your wallet, that then when you have that MetaMask, it just becomes a browser extension. Every website you go to, it'll say, do you want to do this? And then your wallet will pop up and you just say confirm or reject. And so you don't need all these usernames and passwords. And what's so cool about that is everything you do is now tracked on the blockchain. So that you can actually see in your own, everything you've agreed to is through that wallet on the blockchain.
You know what it's like? It's actually real, I'm going to say real life. Everything we're talking about is real life. But physically, you go shopping with your wallet and you pop in Target and then you go next door because there's the liquor store and you're getting some gifts for Christmas. And then you go to the next place and you swing through the bank and you're using your same card 3 different places. You don't need to go like, yeah, each place might have their own little Target card and Walmart card, whatever. But at the same time, you're grabbing your one wallet. But when you shop online, you're right. You have to go to all these different usernames, and every time it's different. And you might have different ways you pay online. And some people pay PayPal, and then they pay their regular credit card, and then they pay their bank card. Where you're just saying it's like having that wallet in your pocket. So you can shop around in the market on different sites on Web3, but that same wallet's going to know, okay, that we're still working with Jacki here, so why make her go back through hoops and need to shop? So it's actually a better experience, which is good when you see technology simplifying things in a good way, but it's also highly protected too. It's not just like, I'm not even calling it cutting corners, just smarter user interface. And it also is still protected, which is good. Because a lot of times, like, you think cutting corners, like, I actually would prefer when I shop, sound like an old man here, if they ask me a 4-digit PIN every time they swipe my card.
Yeah.
Because unless someone has a gun to my head, they're not going to be able to use my card.
Right.
You drop it in a parking lot, whatever gets misplaced, someone steals it literally from you. They're not able to use it unless they're get lucky and know a 4-digit code. So I like the fact that things are protected digitally as well. Something I want to get to real quick. I know we got about 15 minutes and we're going to rip through some cool questions here to learn more about you. I'd love you to, let's get into that like business gear, entrepreneurial, the person that you and I, when we met, I knew you had this awesome energy about you that makes you so fun to come back to and talk to over and over and over again. So I want you to help out our audience right now, which is, I know you agreed to be here to do this, and it's what you're already talking about, but from a business standpoint, let's say, to get back on track, like the mission of my show, as you well know, is to inspire our audience to be brave and bold and pursue their dreams. So if you can talk to our audience members right now, they're on the fence about starting that business, it's tugging at their heart, or they're considering going down this road less traveled, doing what 99% are not willing to do, but they need some encouragement right now. And they're like, Jacki, just what do you got for me? What would you tell that person?
Personal development is the most important thing you will do on this planet. We are human beings. We are not human doings. The work is not in what you accomplish or, what you leave behind. It's in who you become. It's in the relationships and how you affect people. And, the blockchain, everybody that's in blockchain has a past life that we had to give up, that we had to work through when we sounded absolutely nuts. We were being called conspiracy theorists, and I've had everything thrown at me. And the only thing I had to fall back on was I knew I was a good person, and I knew that I could figure this out. And even when it was tough, I really encourage everybody to have some type of spiritual connection or spiritual practices, because and especially when I get into blockchain, I look at these cloud servers and what they know about us. I mean, your data knows more about you than you know about you, unless you're connected to the God server, unless you're connected to yourself in a spiritual way that you are so firm in your foundation, in who you are, that no computer's ever going to tell no computer's ever going to tell Jacki Roach who Jacki Roach is. Trust me, I know me better than anybody. And
Wow.
but that was a road, the road less traveled, as you mentioned. I mean, I didn't get here overnight. And for entrepreneurs out there, I mean, there's support groups for people that date and are spouses of entrepreneurs. There's a great guy in Buffalo, Frank Scordato, who I will give a shout out to because he's been important in my journey. I was just laughing one day. We were talking. He said, entrepreneurship, this is a disease. And we just started. It is. I mean, it's something in you that you can't ever shut off and you can't shut down. And no matter who doesn't believe in you or understand it, just keep going and keep putting the work in and do the rest and do the spiritual stuff. I mean, that's where you rest and you repair. I mean, meditation to me it's defragging my brain. It's getting the bad code out, the bad data out, conditions I've accumulated that don't make sense in the algorithm anymore. That's what it's all about for me. I love becoming a better person.
Boom, another mic drop moment right there from Jacki Roach. That, like, I'm going to go back and re-listen to that, because I know there's going to be times when I get away from that compass, my God-led compass and spiritual compass. And it's easy in the world we live in today, and I'm not trying to make excuses for anybody or myself, but yeah, we're in this like data-driven, highly driven world. Everything's tracked and like can tell us, this is your buying habits, this is what you do. Like, but you're right. It's all about, how about you as a person? That cannot be determined by some kind of code where we know what that is. But a lot of times people don't spend enough time there. Just to kind of reiterate what I'm hearing from you is like, we need to spend more time in that meditative understanding ourselves. So then when we present ourselves in the world that's going to be coming at us a million miles per hour, we can then still act as ourselves and not some version of us that's just basically going through the motions. And I think that's beautiful advice. And I want people, if you are listening or watching right now, go back and listen to that one more time and think about, I'm kind of challenging the audience right now. Think about how you can actually apply that to yourself. So is it getting up maybe 10 minutes extra early in the morning to meditate, or just get yourself in a headspace that says, who do I want to be today before I go and do my tasks? Because everybody has their 75 things they're trying to get done in a day. Before that happens, am I present with myself? And that's something I know I'm conscious of on a daily basis. I think that's beautiful. I didn't know you were going to go there with it. And that's why I'm glad that you're opening up and talking about it. Talked about authorship. And it's I have a lot of authors on the show, but this question's more designed for you to kind of metaphorically think about being the author and protagonist in your own life story. So you get to write the ending. God willing, you continue to live a long and prosperous life. You're looking back on it, you're reflecting on it, and you get to define your legacy. What would that be?
Just that I was a great friend. I of all the things I've done, and for most of my life, I was such an academic person and such an intellectual. And I think the pandemic, if one thing people can take away, it, man, your relationships are all that matters. On my deathbed, I just want to know that I had really meaningful friendship. Like no one looks back, gee, I wish I put that extra day in at work. Gee, I wish I and even as an entrepreneur, it's we are so in love with our work, but it's the relationships that come from the work. Like that's what I really actually care about. So, my legacy, if people can just say, Jacki Roach was a good egg. I loved working with her, then that's it. That's all I need.
Wow. Yeah, and you're doing that. I can speak personally, guys. Like I'm grateful to have you as a friend, someone who I can call. We can get coffee. We're both local in Buffalo, so it's we're able to do that, and I enjoy doing that, especially because as much as doing these virtual calls are fun and work for podcasting, I love getting in front of someone and talking to them. And a friend like yourself, someone who knows me and understands my story, and you're always, I could feel that you're rooting for me in a genuine standpoint. That feels really good. And I was thinking about it as you're saying, like, we're always talking about collecting more cash, money. That's been kind of the American dream of like, getting yourself in a better space. I talk about financial freedom a lot on the show and striving for that. Now we're talking about the digital version of kind of collecting these non-fungible tokens that have value that you want to collect more. It's kind of like when you're collecting more Pokemon cards as a middle schooler or whatever, we're always trying to collect. Well, how about we get back to collecting moments with our friends and our family? And at the end of our life, yeah, we may have X amount of cash and X amount of crypto and this, that, and the other thing, and prestigious job titles and extra hours that we worked at the office. But where do we see the vault of what we've actually done in our lives that matter, like the friendships, the people that we were there for, the people we've inspired, our family that we were there for in difficult times, being able to be vulnerable in a tough spot so we can also learn something and teach something in that moment. I think that's a really, really good place for us to open up right now and have people think about it personally. Like, hey, I'm in control of more than I know I am, as far as just being a kind person, not to get anything in return, just genuinely be a kind person. How many times do you see someone when you're going through the store, grocery line, and like the person looks like they might be miserable, working 5 hours just bagging groceries or just ringing you out, but you just joke with them or you get them to smile or whatever, and you can tell that like, oh, this was different. Something different happened. You break their brain from monotony, and that people appreciate it because that's the human. You're getting them out of robot land and you're getting them into human land again. And it's like you can see like E.T., how his heart grows and it's red. It's almost like you can see people in real life do that when you spend 30 seconds being real with them. Talk a little bit more about like, what you just give me a little bit more on that. Elaborate on some of the ways you think people can just get back to being real again.
I think, recognize that technology is just a tool. And, you hear so much banter about whether this is good or bad. And I've certainly spent a lot of my life, I can't even tell you how many times I've questioned, should I be in blockchain? Am I doing the right thing? Is this really something I should be talking about in the world? But I've come to the conclusion that these are just technologies. And the more we grow as people through real experiences, and I use technology to facilitate real experiences. For example, one of the biggest project I'm on right now is an NFT that we are giving to public school kids. We're teaching them about digital asset ownership, but this is a ticket that connects them to actual ski lessons. So we're getting them to, and then I have this whole idea. I don't know if it's really going to flesh out, but I want to do some like geocaching stuff where if you're at Holiday Valley or a different resort, you could actually be collecting NFTs like in the real world. Like there's a QR code somewhere and, you see it and you get taken to the link or whatever. But I'm all about bridging both of these worlds and just using them to facilitate the real relationships. I mean, I have remote teams that I work with all over the world. I mean, I could name you 20 countries that if I went to right now, I'd have someplace to stay. So people think they need the money, they think they need the things. You just need the relationships, because if you have friends all over the world, you can get anywhere, you can do anything, and they'll help you, they'll support you, they'll do it for free at most of the time. It's
Most times
amazing.
people just need to be asked, like, hey man, do you think you can help me with this? And I would say most people enjoy helping people out. I'd say that there's a majority of people that do want to help you. And if they don't always have the answers or the time, they can always put you in a better situation. But the difference in getting the help and not is typically asking. And you're right, like, building, again, we talked about kind of that vault of friendships and relationships and how that gets you further ahead in life. I come from a sales background, over 10 years plus in sales. And every time I did really well, it was because, it was built around an environment where relationships were built, whether it was with leadership team, with clients, of course, with the person who referred me to a client. And it's always like when there's a genuine good relationship there, that's like the foundation for things to grow on. And then you can, people like you, they care, they trust you. And that's what it all comes back down to. And, and also people, I'll say this, the most important part of any organization, even when it's a digitally facing business that doesn't maybe have human interaction with the customer directly, there's people making decisions. There's people who are creating the tech, making the tech work, and help it, like user experience, right? UE is like the most important thing when it comes to technology, because if you have this great idea, but it doesn't help the human experience, it's not going to do well. Like it
There
simply won't. It won't do well.
There's a virtual human named LV4. He's a composite. He's code, but he has like a whole virtual avatar, and he's a hip hop producer. He has 130,000 TikTok followers, and his whole point, the coders behind him were to just release him into the social media world and gather as much data about the humans that listen to him and collaborate with him. And so you think of this, like if I told and I'm sure your listeners right now, half of them are going, that's so cool. And half of them are going, we have to stop this.
That's crazy. Yeah.
And I think for me, it's just always important. Life is a reflection. So, look at these things. What can we learn from them to do better? And even in that, you see how much power you as an individual have to understand if you're being influenced by the technology or if you're influencing the technology. And that's such an important place to stand in, no matter what you're using. If we can't help give our data away, we just can't help it. So what data are you giving the machine?
Mm-hmm. That's the dichotomy that we're talking about, like with people being on either side of the fence. Like either you're embracing it and you're kind of pushing it forward, or you're trying to like hide and pretend that it's not happening. And the reason, again, that I wanted you on the show today was many reasons, reconnecting and sharing your story, but it's to let people know, like, hey, you're somewhere on that line. There's a line, and there's like the embracing it and running with it, or there's the trying to run in the opposite direction. And if you're in either direction, simply ask yourself why. And,
Mhm.
if you're embracing, then why not do a little bit more or get to know more? And if you're running in the other direction, why? And it's okay. I'm not trying to make an entitled statement because I'm not even that. But I'm just saying when you make a decision like that, ask yourself why. And then if it's because you're scared and you don't know enough about it, well, cool. Let's just admit that. And then let's like move to the next step. And that was really the purpose of today. And I think we really hammered it home. Would you like to share anything else before we wrap up?
Yeah, I'm part of a group called Women Web3 Warriors. And the whole point here was there are so many women, like in middle aged women too, like older women that see this technology. They really care about the next generation and they feel shut out from its development and all of that stuff. So we started this group to allow women to like grow in their confidence in this area because we all do need to voice how we feel. And coming to that in a very articulate manner that says not only is this how I feel about it, but this is the direction I think we should go. And understanding that like the technology is always going to be implementing, it's always going to be like spreading its tentacles. It's not about controlling it, it's just about guiding it. And everybody, the more educated you get on this stuff, the more you poke around on Web3, get involved in Decentraland, watch what your kids are doing and what they're getting into. There's so many the gaming industry is enormous in blockchain. A lot of kids play that Roblox and crypto voxels and Minecraft. Minecraft set everything up for what Farmville set everything up for what we're doing right now. So, I mean, watch your kids, be involved, talk to them about digital asset ownership. I mean, these are opportunities to grow and to heal a lot of the relationships that haven't been so healthy for a lot of us in the past.
Yeah. I mean, I have a 6-year-old daughter, Isabel, and I'm excited for the days when she's doing some tech that is even over my head because it's something maybe I didn't grow up with, where I can embrace it, opposed to being, because you and I are I believe we were born in the same year, we're the same age, and we, it's an exciting age. I feel like we're in our mid-30s, and it's like we grew up with records, we had vinyl, we had cassette. We didn't. The 8-track thing wasn't really popular. I don't know. Did you ever use those?
No.
I never did. Yeah. So we had like vinyl in the house. We had cassettes. We saw CDs. We saw video games that went from Atari to cartridges to, which was cartridges, and to CDs. We've seen like the growth of that. We saw the internet was created during our time. We went from playing on computers in school that had like Oregon Trail to doing book reports, and then Google comes out and I would admit I thought it was going to be like a flash in the pan thing. I didn't know Google was going to stick around because there was all these competitors. There's Yahoo, there's Bing, there's XYZ, and Google's just like, nope, we're not going anywhere. We're going to own the whole world. But my point is, we got to see all this exciting change and embrace it. But a lot of times, my parents, I had to go to them and be like, guys, you got to get a little bit of this in your life, like a phone that's not attached to the wall. Let's embrace that. And like if you're at the grocery store, you're supposed to have your phone with you so I can call you, or if you need me, you can call me. And it took some time, but I'm excited to be of the generation. And I think a lot of our peers are like this now, where we're like, teach us. Like if there's something you're doing that we don't know yet, please let us, like, I want to know more. Teach me, Isabel, teach me, feed me. Right. Instead of being like, oh, back in the day, we didn't do that. So I think
A
it's
12-year-old girl just made $4 million on NFTs. The amount
right.
of kids in this space, if you're in your 30s and 40s and 50s and you're not paying attention, these
Mhm.
kids are running things right now. So
Yeah.
I would start paying attention.
Giddy up. That's exciting, man. I hear that and I'm like super pumped, right? Like that's exciting. Like let's embrace it. I like to say this, and I didn't intend on this being all the way at the very end of the show. Again, thank you everybody who's tuning in again, listening to us, watching us here. I'd like to give Jacki a moment here, a proper thank you. And I know I've done this a couple times in social media. You've probably seen it over the last couple of years of like me giving proper credit where it's certainly due, and letting people know that I wouldn't have started Mic'd Up. And I don't know if I would have started it at some point or later or whatever, but the reason it started when it did, and my first guest was Jacki Roach. And so, guys, if you want to go back and kind of listen to where we all started from, that would be cool. But I wouldn't have done it in the way that I did because she definitely nudged me and You're just a great friend in that way, where you saw something in me and I felt it, and you were like disappointed that if I didn't do anything with it, and you let me know that very clearly in a positive way. And you sent me a couple videos like, dude, just this is how you start it, right? And I started my show, and just some people may not know this, and I started mic'd up in November 4th was the first episode, 2019. And now I have over 100 episodes, and much of it is in thanks to you. So I want to make sure I give you like on air, like recorded on record, a proper gratitude. Thank you for that. And so thank you.
Well, you are very welcome. I mean, it was amazing. I mean, because like I said, life is a reflection, and so much of what you were going through, even I had to step back and go, like, well, geez, Jackie, you can freely give this advice out so easily. And I had to take it myself too. And I would even say that, you launched and experienced success before I did either. I mean, I was really ahead with blockchain, and I had to like wait, especially in our area. Like I had to wait for people to really understand and wanted to get
Be
involved
ready
or
to talk.
whatever. But yeah, but I mean, even seeing how you developed, and I think that's the coolest thing with friendship is like, I never care if people are like further ahead or behind, or like we're all in this, we're all going to win. And there's more than enough space, and it's just been amazing watching you grow. And I mean, some of the guests you've had over the years now, and the opportunities it's unlocked for you. You have a whole team now. I mean, it's incredible. And it really is. Sometimes it just takes somebody. And I think with you, like you had already done so much of the work. Like you had already served so many people at that point, and your head was still there. And I was like, dude, you have it all. The sauce is here. You just got to start cooking,
Yeah. You said to me, you do all this for your clients. How come you don't do it for yourself? And that hit me. And I still remember the feeling of that. Like, oh, you're right. It's like having a shoe store, but my shoes had holes in them. And you're like, dude, just
Yep.
why don't you pick up some Jordans for yourself? Like you put them on the shelf. You're the one who funded this place. Why don't you
Yeah.
take care of your damn self? I was like, whoa. And it was eye opening. And then I transitioned even before the pandemic, when everyone was pivoting in different ways as entrepreneurs. One of the things we're good on our feet and shifting, but I was already thinking about how I can move to a digital space, and instead of like serving people only in my neck of the woods or our neck of the woods here, I was doing social media management, content creation, web design, marketing. It was kind of limited. It was like the mom and pop shops were the ones that were willing to talk, but they also had kind of the smallest budgets, and there was this struggle I was in. And I started mic'd up, and I was previously working on another friend's podcast. Shout out to Dave Mamano. He had me working on his show a little bit, which got me into understanding podcasting. I was a consumer, right? So that's really all I knew, is I was consuming them. I loved the medium. I was helping Dave. Then you kind of were like, dude, you have a story. You have a show in you. And I also reflected, and big shout out to God, because I just surrendered. And I said, put me in position to do what you feel I'm called to do. And it was like coinciding with you in the little bit of, the nudging that was going on. And then I launched it. And oddly enough, I want to make sure people know this, because a lot of times I don't share my story on my own show, is that starting my show allowed me to also have a client come up to me or email me and say, can you do our show too? Because we wanted to do one and we never knew how to do it. And I was like, of course, yes. And they're like, no, we'll pay you to do it. And I thought they just wanted help. And then it went from one client to like 10xing that in a pandemic year to now. I have 3 audio video editors. Shout out to my team, Randall, Nate, Todd, fantastic. They're all super talented. And then also Samantha now on our team is doing graphic design. So I would not be where I'm at without any of them, and also without friends like you in my corner. So I wanted to give you that proper shout out. And seriously, thank you so much for your time today. I'm going to go back and listen to this again, because I can relearn from the technical side of it, but also just a lot of the great things that you shared with us.
It was an absolute pleasure. Thank you. I'm so honored to be your first guest, your first repeat guest. And here's to breaking more ground as we keep going through this thing called life, right?
Cheers to the new year right around the corner, 2022. Yes. Amazing things. Cheers there. And hey, anytime you want to do the 3-peat and be back on, just give me a shout and I can make that happen.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mike.
I'd like to give a huge shout out to everyone for tuning in, especially those who listen all the way to the end to hear this message. Seriously, I appreciate you, and my guests do as well. Giving a quick reminder to subscribe to this show. It's completely free and will allow you to receive notifications when new episodes are released. If you'd like to provide a tip as a gift, you can do so via patreon.com/mikedup. It's spelled MIKED up. Patreon.com/mikedup. You can give as little as $1 per month or as much as you'd like. Every dollar is greatly appreciated and completely unexpected. Appreciate your reviews and your messages coming in on social as well. Keep them coming. Your feedback is valuable and absolutely means the world to me. You can check out more episodes and content at mikeduppodcast.com. We're powered by Social Chameleon. You can also follow me on Instagram. That's where I'm the most active, and it's at Mike DiCioccio, MIKEDICIOCCIO. Thank you so much for your continued support. You guys know what to do. Be great and be grateful.